Is this the yes vote that you've been waiting for? The yes endorsement that you've been just hanging on to, waiting for over the last, weeks and months and everything else ahead of tomorrow's vote in Jackson County on the Chiefs and Royals sales tax extension? Something tells me that's not the case for many of you, but I want to hear from you at 913-408-7957. Welcome in. Happy Monday. Hope you had a great and happy Easter Sunday, as we did in our household. Quinton Lucas, the mayor of Kansas City, at the 11th hour, has come out and said,
I'm Mayor Quinton Lucas. I encourage you to vote yes on question 1, bringing jobs, investments, and great venues and events to Kansas City.
8 seconds. 8 seconds from Quinton Lucas. That's the grandiose big endorsement that he is rolling out on a Saturday before the vote. It didn't look like a hostage video, but something tells me that the mayor is basically trying to get involved, help out the yes side, but do it in a manner so that if this thing crashes and burns, he can't really take responsibility for it. You can't blame him. But if it passes, he can kind of jump on the bandwagon. You and I both know the mayor's an enormous sports fan, as are we on this show. I'm a huge sports fan. Mark, obviously, is gambling every game he can place a bet on in this town. That's just the reality. And John's a lifer here in Kansas City and loves all of our professional sports. But as we've covered this from the get-go, there are compelling reasons on both sides as to why you would vote yes and why you would vote no. And the mayor, like many in political power right now in this town, found himself caught between a rock and a hard place, especially as a so-called progressive Democrat. You had the most progressive folks in Kansas City saying no to this project. However, you also have a more conservative faction of Jackson County also expressing no interest in extending this 3/8 sales tax under this populism umbrella of tell the billionaires to build their own damn stadiums. These groups don't have much in common. That is one thing that they do have in common as populism continues to grow in the environment that we find ourselves in this country. So something tells me many of you are not waiting with bated breath for Quinton Lucas's endorsement either way, but now you got it. And now, as you sit here and get set to go to the polls tomorrow in Jackson County, I know many of you have been on the fence about this. What is tipping you one way or the other? At 913-408-7957. I doubt it was the mayor's endorsement. I don't think anybody was really waiting for that either way. It's not an insult to him. I don't think anybody was looking at this project who was still on the fence a couple of days before the election and was like, well, if the mayor says it's good, it's good. You were struggling, like many people that I've talked to, with the idea of realizing this will not be any new taxes. You're not going to pay more money out of your pocket than you have been when you talk about a sales tax extension. However, out of principle, you're also like, screw it. And screw them. And maybe a party also says to yourself, I don't want to deal and I don't want anything to do with moving the Royals out of Kauffman Stadium. And you know as well as I do, if you've been listening to this show, it's not an option to keep them there. The team is not going to stay. But out of principle, and maybe partially out of spite. Let's be honest, we've all voted and pushed a button and pulled a lever out of spite. You say, I'm voting no. That's up to you. You're going to figure that out tomorrow if you're a Jackson County taxpayer. But Quinton Lucas throwing out his endorsement over the weekend feels to me like he's just hedging his bets. Now, the flyers are coming out in full force over the last couple of days. John's been bringing in his flyers here over the last week or so. But I don't know if you got this flyer, John. Did you get this flyer? There's a flyer that I saw in Tony's, Kansas City, and it says, radical liberals are hell-bent on taking the Chiefs away from us.
I think that I did. I'll sort to my weekend mail.
Please,
think I might have that.
Please, bring that one in tomorrow. I just want to get it framed because this is just getting wild.
Yeah, they're all nice collectibles.
I've got 3 of them here. These are, nice, thick 8.5 by 11s. This is nice stuff. So here's the new one that's coming out. I saw in Tony's, Kansas City. New flyer. It's got pictures of KC tenants acting like a bunch of wackos and insane people. And it says, radical liberals are hell-bent on taking the Chiefs away from us. Don't let them. Vote yes on question 1, April 2nd. And the other side has a picture of Arrowhead and the American flag over Arrowhead Stadium. And it says, don't let the radical left take the Chiefs. Vote yes on question 1 means 26,000 new jobs for Jackson County, no new taxes, keep the Chiefs at Arrowhead. It's a better deal for everyone. Vote yes on question 1 on April 2nd and keep the Chiefs in Jackson County. Now, obviously, that mailer is intended for conservative Jackson County residents. But what's interesting is that there's many of those people who find themselves listening to this show who are not tricked by a flyer. And that is as much as, listen, I know who's making these flyers. We know that in part Axiom, the company here in town that, has helped a lot of Republicans across the country, is involved with the Vote Yes side. I don't know if this is them for sure, but there's no doubt about it. There are Republicans who are behind the Vote Yes, who are helping out the Vote Yes side. But what's weird is that they've also got people like Sly James helping them out on the Vote Yes side. Former Kansas City mayor, and, he's a diehard Democrat. Sly would tell you that, right? So this is compelling, and this is why I don't think this issue fits in to the convenient political boxes that the consulting class wants it to. I don't believe you're going to pit conservatives against liberals on this, or conservatives against the wackos with KC tenants. And don't get me wrong, I can't stand KC tenants as an organization. Not the individuals, but the organization I think is horrible for business in this town. But when they bring up points like sales taxes are regressive taxes that impact poor people and working class people more than others, that is a fact. Those are true. That's not them, necessarily using their political clout. Those are all facts. And then when you talk about billionaires and whether or not they should pay for their own toys and pay for their own buildings, no one's subsidizing your small business. So those are legitimate points and legitimate conversations that they brought up. And yes, they've been said by far left groups, but they're still facts. And that's what makes this such an interesting day coming up tomorrow morning.
They are indeed facts, but they seem to be generally applicable to this argument. Very few no arguments are specific to this situation. The no's that say, I want to keep Kauffman Stadium, that's specific to this situation. The no's that say, I don't want to give a billionaire any of my tax dollars, this could be about any other thing.
Correct.
So I'm just counting the no's that are specific to this, the people that didn't want Oak closed. That would be specific to the situation. I'll listen to those no arguments as a yes person.
Yes.
With an open mind. The rest of this, we need our fair share, a seat at the table. I'm not giving a billionaire. Look, your small business doesn't generate the e-tax that Royal Stadium does, okay? So I get it, but it's a different situation.
They just want a new yellow shirt. The old one's getting a little stinky, needs to go in the wash. 913-408-7957. Tomorrow is the day Mark Donovan, the Chiefs president, is going to be on this show at 7:30 this morning. You don't want to miss that here on KCMO. It's just over an hour away. That will be his first appearance, by the way, on 95.7 FM KCMO with Chiefs President Mark Donovan an hour and 20 minutes from now. Next, you know how much this show backs the blue. We literally have a tour called Back the Blue. But over the weekend, one of the most powerful speeches that you will hear came from the spouse of the late New York City police officer who got killed last week. And by the way, there's something else that happened in the wake of that tragedy that the Royals and the Chiefs might be able to take an idea from. We'll tell you what that is next on KCMO. It was one of the most powerful speeches I've seen, not just in recent weeks, but frankly this year. And it came over the weekend at the funeral services for Jonathan Diller, the New York City police officer who was killed last week. And, we've had 27 law enforcement officers lose their lives in the line of duty this year. Of course, most recently in our neighborhood, Cody Allen in Independence. But anytime, you get something, let's be honest, New York City police officer, the media is obviously in New York. You are going to have much more attention on this, and it's going to be more of a household name, especially with what that city is going through. It's Kansas City on steroids. When you talk about no cash bail, awful prosecutors, criminals running wild, it's a terrible situation. So this guy, Jonathan Diller, lost his life during a routine traffic stop. He was going over to tell a couple of guys that they couldn't have their car in the lane it was basically parked in, and they shot him and they killed him. Absolutely tragic. And by the way, the two guys that were involved allegedly in this shooting had racked up a combined 35 arrests. The one who was accused of being the shooter has been arrested 21 times, including 9 felonies. These are scumbags. These are people who had no business being part of a civilized society. But because we're in this environment where criminals are the real victims here and, they're victims of society and the whole thing, they have been let out and let loose. So Stephanie Diller gave an incredibly emotional speech over the weekend. Jonathan Diller was married to her. He leaves behind his wife, his young child, 1-year-old son, his parents. And the fact that Stephanie Diller was able to get through this speech and get through her comments was impressive enough. This is, I know, a sad story, but I also want to highlight it because to me, her strength is incredibly impressive.
It's hard to imagine how long I have to wait to see Jonathan again. The doors to heaven open for me one day. I hope to see Jonathan standing there looking at me just like he did on our wedding day. My husband died a hero, but he also lived as one. Our world will never be the same, but I know I speak for everyone when I say I could not be more proud of him. It's been 2 years and 2 months since Detective Rivera and Detective Mora made the ultimate sacrifice, just like my husband, Jonathan Diller. Dominique Rivera stood in front of all the elected officials present today pleading for change. That change never came, and now my son will grow up without his father. I will grow old without my husband, and his parents have to say goodbye to their child. How many more police officers and how many more families need to make the ultimate sacrifice before we start protecting them? I don't wish this kind of pain on anyone. Jonathan lived his life doing good for people, and it's now time for people to do good for all the officers he represents.
That is Stephanie Diller, of course, the late wife of Jonathan Diller, who lost his life as a New York City cop last week. And not only did she obviously eulogize and speak to her husband, her late husband, but she also talked broadly. What is going to have to happen? How much more needs to happen before we finally start protecting? It's not just, by the way, the men and women in law enforcement. It's you. It's us. It's regular people who are living or trying to live in a civilized society without knowing where these thugs and scumbags are at any given moment and how many of them are in our presence at any given point in time. Like at the Super Bowl parade. You go down there, you bring the family, you bring the kids, you think, hey, rah-rah Chiefs, I'm going to get a little fun out of this, have a memorable afternoon. Little do I know, guys with records, guys who are known to law enforcement to some degree at least, are roaming around with, weapons looking to do stupid things and resulting in dozens of people getting shot and one getting killed. So it's not just about the men and women in law enforcement. Obviously, they need to be talked about and need to be protected as well for their own sake, but it's also the rest of us, just normal people trying to live their everyday lives. So you can't look at this situation and not tie it back to the broader picture and broader problem that this country has in many major American cities. And that is a failure to take the worst of the worst and put them where they belong. And that's in a prison cell. That's not roaming the streets. That's not, a little slap on the wrist once again for Johnny. He deserves a 13th chance. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. These people don't. They're scum. And when you have a situation, by the way, a narrative that is continuing to unfold, that somehow the cops are the bad guys, the data doesn't back it up. 27 law enforcement members have died in the line of duty this year in this country. There have been 2. This is from the Washington Post police shooting database. 2 people who have been shot and killed who were unarmed by cops in the country. 2. Compared to 27 losses of life in the line of duty for cops this year. That's the data. Those are the facts. Now, meantime, I will give credit because over the weekend I saw this. The New York Mets honored slain New York City police officer Jonathan Diller on opening day. This was on Friday. They had his name, his face, in memory of 1992 to 2024. They honored him before the game. And I saw that and I thought to myself, the Chiefs and the Royals do a great job in terms of honoring law enforcement and caring about law enforcement in this community. But that's one of those things that as I look back on Royals opening day, if they wanted to do something that really unified people and got people on their side ahead of this yes vote tomorrow, that might have been a compelling way to do it. I'm not saying you use the death of an officer for your own political gain, but it is one of those things that brings people together and it shows that you care. And Officer Cody Allen, this was all of a month ago that he was shot and killed in Independence. Not even a month, right? It was early, probably exactly a month right now, give or take. Right around this time. And you got to look at that and you got to say to yourself, okay, if our sports teams continue to show that they love and they care about law enforcement and they use every opportunity possible to do just that, they'll get a lot of people on their side. A lot of people in this community who love law enforcement, who respect law enforcement, who stand up for law enforcement. They'll get a lot of folks on their side if they do that. And there's no time to do it, with, of course, the Royals going on the road. So that's not going to be happening before this vote tomorrow, right? Because the Orioles they're on the road for that series this week, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So it can't happen before tomorrow. But any opportunity, either of our teams, or include the Current or Sporting. Now, their audiences are a little more woke, but any chance they can support law enforcement, they should take it. If they can do it in New York, as certainly they can do it here. 913-408-7957. It's good to be back on a Monday. Speaking of the Chiefs, we are going to have Chiefs President Mark Donovan on this show at 7:35 this morning, 1 hour from now. He is going to be here to talk about this big vote coming up tomorrow. Don't miss it on KCMO Talk Radio. Meantime, happy Easter, or as Joe Biden would call yesterday, Transgender Visibility Day. We'll get to it next. A couple of you just texted into the show, and I appreciate you doing this, saying that the Royals on opening day did a moment for Cody Allen and Mr. Mack, who was the process server who was killed in that tragedy in Independence a few weeks ago. They did a moment of silence before the anthem. That's great. I did not know that. I'm glad they did that, and I love hearing that they did that. So good stuff. I'm happy to stand corrected on that. I just think the more opportunities, it wasn't really to knock the teams at all. They both do a very good job supporting law enforcement. But any opportunity you have to support law enforcement, and by the way, promote that you're supporting law enforcement on various social media channels, traditional media outlets, is an opportunity you should always take in this climate. Because trust me, we are the silent majority. The silent majority is those of us who believe in what law enforcement do, the goodness that they do for our communities. Some people are just still afraid to say it in the wake of the 2020 stupidity and the way that the media treated law enforcement during that period of time, and still does in large part to today, unfortunately. All right, so yesterday was Easter. I hope you had a happy and fruitful Easter Sunday. It was a beautiful weekend. Yesterday was not as good as Saturday, but it was just a beautiful Easter weekend. Hope you enjoyed it with family and friends and got to celebrate. But yesterday was also a day that happens to be March 31st. Some would refer to yesterday as not Easter Sunday. They would call it Transgender Day of Visibility. Now, to set the record straight, Transgender Day of Visibility has been around since 2009. Another one of these made-up holidays that means absolutely nothing. But it has been around for a long time. Not as long as Easter, but it's been around for a little bit, okay? So Joe Biden sent out a little press release statement on Transgender Day of Visibility Friday and the Saturday. And naturally, a lot of us who are getting set for Easter weekend said, what is this old fool doing? It's Easter weekend, and he's celebrating Transgender Day of Visibility. Now, Joe Biden has done this before. He did this the last couple of years. I just want to make sure you have the facts, because there's a lot of people who are acting outraged by this, and I believe rightfully so. And they were sitting there and they were saying, how could he possibly do this? What is he thinking? Well, he has done this each of the last couple of years. And that was the argument for many people on the left. They said, well, hey, Joe Biden has sent out this, little statement about Transgender Day of Visibility for the last couple of years. It just so happens that this year, Transgender Day of Visibility falls on Easter. And I can buy that to some degree. But here's a guy in Joe Biden who continues to wear his fake Catholicism stripes on his sleeves and wherever else he can. And he uses that when he finds it advantageous to him and his own movement. So I want to share with you what Joe Biden posted on social media yesterday at 7:45 a.m. Joe Biden shared on Twitter. To all those gathering in churches and homes around the world today, happy Easter. May God bless and keep you. Gosh. Okay. That's all we got from Joe when it comes to what he said about Easter Sunday. No pictures, no anything. Just that's it. That's all it said on Twitter. And then 3.5 hours later, he writes this on his Twitter page. Once again, Joe's not tweeting this out. He's, already taken his second nap and getting his diaper changed. But someone posted this on his social media channels at 11 a.m. yesterday morning. On Transgender Day of Visibility, we celebrate the joy, strength, and absolute courage of some of the bravest people I know. Please. Joe barely knows who Jill is half the time. Today, we show millions of transgender and non-binary Americans that we see them, they belong, and they should be treated with dignity and respect. And then there's a big graphic, and it says trans rights are human rights, and it's got the Biden-Harris logo at the bottom of it. Joe Biden spoke more highly of transgender people yesterday than he did the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I mean, put that into perspective, what Joe Biden did on his social media pages. He spoke more highly of someone who is walking around with junk in their pants, thinking they're a chick, than Jesus Christ. That's what the President of the United States did yesterday. And by the way, for those saying hey, he's just recognizing the day, it just so happens the day falls on Easter. Here's why this is a bad take. A real, Christian president would have seen this and recognized that these two days happen to fall on the same day, and he would have basically ignored it. He would have basically been like, there are plenty of other days where I can talk about those little pet issues and those little, things that a small sector of society care about. And I could have done that any other day. Trust me, there's Pride Month. There's, the month of November is Trans Awareness Month. Did you know that, by the way? November is Trans Awareness Month. It is. Look it up. There is like 100 days on the calendar when Joe Biden could have done this. November 13th through November 19th is Transgender Awareness Week. Did you know that? I mean, they're just making up weeks and holidays now. There's one Easter. One. You're telling me there would have been outrage had Joe Biden wisely just kind of let that one go this year and ignored it and not thumbed his nose in the face of 200 million Christians who live in this country and just kind of taken the day off from the craziness? You don't think that would have been in his best political interest? It would have been. But once again, this guy's not interested in mending fences in this country, no matter what he said in 2020 on the campaign trail. We've got 4 years of data that backs up. He's not interested in that. He is interested in pandering to the most extreme members in his own party. And none of this is anti-trans. None of this is, ignoring or not caring or not having sympathy and empathy for trans people or anybody for that matter, right? But it doesn't mean you celebrate it. It doesn't mean you have to go out there outwardly on Easter Sunday and celebrate Transgender Day of Visibility more than you celebrate Easter Sunday. And that's exactly what Joe Biden did yesterday. So this is not about the fact that, yes, he's done this before. We all get he's done this before. It's about what he did on the day that he did it. And the fact that he treated these two things vastly differently. Easter Sunday, just a passing moment. I'll throw a little tweet out there. Happy Easter, everybody. Hope the Easter Bunny showed up for you. And then when it comes to Transgender Day of Visibility, some of the bravest people I know have wanted to chop their nuts off or something like that. Are you kidding me? 913-408-7957. That's our studio line. That's our text line on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. As we approach 6:45, we're going to have Chiefs President Mark Donovan here at 7:30 this morning. Don't miss it. Let's go to Jim. He's out east. What's up, Jim? Good morning.
Hey, Pete, wouldn't this technically be Gender Denial Day?
Yeah, you could call it that. That works for me there, Jim, out east. Yep,
all righty.
That's a good one, buddy. Thank you for bringing that point up. I mean, but by the way, this is not the only day. It's not. Did you know there's a day coming up? International Asexuality Day is coming up on Saturday, April 6th. Did you know that? I just want to make sure you're fully prepared. Make sure you're celebrating. Coming up on Saturday. All right? If you got to take the day off Friday, tell your bosses now. Saturday is International Asexuality Day. I mean, there are April 26th is Lesbian Visibility Day. I mean, there are I have a full list of all these days I'll get to probably next hour that goes to point out if Joe wanted to honor any of this stuff, there are a ton of opportunities to do it across the calendar year. But he had to do it on Easter Sunday. And there was a purpose for that. It's not a mistake. It's not because they forgot yesterday was Easter. It's because they need to pander to the most extreme of the extreme. Oh, we are in silly season right now. You seeing some of the flyers and some of the mailers that are going out there ahead of tomorrow's Jackson County vote yes, vote no, Chiefs Royals tax. This is a new one that I didn't think we'd see, but here we are. So some of the most progressive groups in Kansas City are against the tax passing tomorrow. But it's interesting because there's also many more conservative-minded and leaning folks who also are against the tax. So it's strange how politics makes different bedfellows. But anyway, local branch of the Sunrise Movement, they are, I would say, a minor league KC Tenants, a wannabe KC Tenants. They are sending out a flyer and a mailer that has a picture of John Sherman and a picture of Clark Hunt. And over John Sherman's face, it says, climate criminal. That's right. They've called him a climate criminal, John Sherman. They write here, John Sherman made his billions off fossil fuels. He made his wealth by destroying our world. Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man, oh, man, oh, man.
I'm getting pissed now.
Oh, boy. They're fired up there at the Sunrise Movement.
He also built an all-inclusive playground at Shawnee Mission Park.
Yeah. Oh, Mark, stop.
Oh, sorry.
Stop. That does not fit the narrative.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
He's a climate criminal. Damn
That's
it.
right. That's right.
Okay? That's what he is, a climate criminal. And then over Clark Hunt's face, it says, oil baron Nepo baby. Meaning, nepotism, the whole thing. It says, Clark Hunt's family fortune was built on the back of one of the largest oil drilling operations in the history of Texas. Then it says, swipe and make a plan to vote. Polls are open, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Tuesday. This is like if Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez came to Kansas City and made a little mailer, this is what it would look like. I mean, this is just comical stuff. It's a joke.
Drill, baby, drill.
Drill,
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 baby,
drill, 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 drill. That's right.
Boom, boom, boom.
Oh, man. So now you're seeing the other side of this, too. There was another flyer that was circulating Jackson County this weekend, and it went on the other end. And it said here on the other flyer, radical liberals are hell-bent on taking the Chiefs away from us. Don't let them. Vote yes on question 1, April 2nd. On the other side of the flyer, it said, don't let the radical left take the Chiefs from us. Voting yes on question 1 means 26,000 new jobs for Jackson County. No new taxes. Keep the Chiefs at Arrowhead. It's a better deal for everyone. Vote yes on question 1 on April 2nd and keep the Chiefs in Jackson County. So you have hardcore politics getting involved now in this issue tomorrow, which is why I will pat ourselves on the back briefly here when I say we have and will continue to cover this better because the sports guys are fishes out of water on this story. They don't understand the politics. They just sit there with the little pom-poms and they go rah-rah sports teams. They don't get how the politics are now starting to play a huge role in this and why the politics are starting to play a big role in this. So now, don't let the radical left take the Chiefs away from us. Well, in fairness, the radical left is not exclusively trying to take the Chiefs away from anybody. You have progressive groups, along with those on the right, who are for very different reasons voting no. And that's what makes this such a fascinating situation ahead of tomorrow. Now, I believe the yes will squeak it out. I think it's going to be razor thin. But I do believe they're going to squeak it out because they have been able to flood the airwaves with $3 million in ads. And that's mailers, that's TV, that's radio, that's digital, that's social media, that's everything across the board. And while I do think the no side has done a good job on the grassroots, it's tough to overcome $3 million. And that's what we're talking about here. Now, also over the weekend, there was an endorsement. And it came from none other than Mayor Quinton Lucas. Here he is making his endorsement on the yes side.
I'm Mayor Quinton Lucas. I encourage you to vote yes on question 1, bringing jobs, investments, and great venues and events to Kansas City.
8 seconds. Now, that's the shortest comment Mayor Quinton Lucas has ever made in his life, 8 seconds. I mean, someone clearly wrote that out for him. And stick to the script, Q. Stick to the script.
Is that one good? Because I've got one that can go 20.
I've got an
I
8
would
second,
say.
I've got a 20 second, and I got a 2-minute version.
Yeah.
And, we appreciate him coming on the show, but he's never one to shorten his answers. We'll put it that way. So 8 seconds from Quinton Lucas voting yes. Now, what's interesting is you go back to 2019 when the guy ran for mayor, and he once famously said, we need a new downtown baseball stadium like I need a new Maserati. That was the quote from Quinton Lucas 5 years ago. What changed? Well, I'm in no way surprised the mayor's come out on the yes side at all. In fact, I eventually expected him to come out on the yes side because you and I both know that he's a sports fan. I mean, so am I, but we knew the political creature in him was going to try to hedge his bets. And here's what he's done. He feels like he's done enough to appease the progressive wackos at KC Tenants. And he has done more than enough. He's appeased them far beyond what he ever should have done with this group. All right? I mean, whether it's the new law that doesn't let you evict people or it doesn't let you not rent to certain people who might have criminal backgrounds you're not comfortable with. I mean, crazy stuff like that. I believe the mayor feels like he has basically played nice with KC Tenants where he will get a pass from them over the long haul on this issue. Now, if yes wins tomorrow and the Tenants folks are pissed, he'll acquiesce to them in some other wacky way that I won't agree with. But that's what he'll do. He will, I don't want to say buy them out, but there will be something that happens in this town that will be playing nice with KC Tenants, and it will be as a, sorry about the stadium stuff, here's this. That's how I see this relationship playing out because everything is transactional in large part with City Hall. And we've seen that the last 5 years now in this town, John.
Yeah, it wouldn't a surprise, I guess, that he would say or endorse yes, maybe just that it took so long. I mean, he fought back when we were talking about Clay counties when he was emphatic they weren't going anywhere.
Yes.
So for that point, I would say that sort of tipped me to believing he's certainly a yes guy.
I think he's always been a yes guy.
Well,
you're right.
By position, and if not personally.
And he's
by position of mayor of town.
Alluded to being a yes guy. Mm-hmm. But I think the late endorsement is basically a way to say, I'm a yes guy. I'm going to help you guys try to tip the scales a little bit. And if it doesn't work out, well, don't look at me. You know, if he had been a yes guy for 2 months and the no vote won out, he would look bad.
Yeah.
So by doing it at the 11th hour, he can say to the teams, I'm all here for you guys. But if it doesn't work out, don't look at me. Now, I don't know how many people are waiting, to be honest, for this endorsement either way. It's not an insult. I just don't know who's waiting for the endorsement of the mayor either way on this. But we'll see how it plays out.
It's a personal decision. I think everybody's mind's made up regardless of groups.
Yeah.
Endorsements, right? It's a little different.
This is not like, let's wait for the politician I like to endorse it. That's not what this is tomorrow. But it doesn't mean that he didn't get some pressure, I would say, from certain folks to go ahead and do this. So yesterday wasn't just, of course, Easter Sunday. It was also, as you might have heard, Transgender Day of Visibility, as it's been since 2009. And that got a lot of attention from, the president and some others in his orbit. But it wasn't just that day. Yesterday was another day. There were 3 things yesterday. I don't know if you know this. Easter Sunday, what's the big deal? It's just Easter Sunday.
TIC, tongue-in-cheek.
Yes, very much so. Thank you, John, for anyone who is a little thick-skulled out there. Transgender Day of Visibility. And also, yesterday was Cesar Chavez Day. Did you know that? Yeah.
I missed it.
Cesar Chavez Day. So, Cesar Chavez Day is a U.S. federal commemorative holiday proclaimed by Barack Obama back in 2014. The holiday celebrates the birth and legacy of the civil rights and labor movement activist Cesar Chavez on March 31st every year. Cesar Chavez was an American farm worker, labor leader, and civil rights activist who co-founded the National Farm Workers Association, later the United Farm Workers Union, UFW. It is commemorated to promote service to the community in honor of Cesar Chavez's life and work. Some state government offices, community colleges, libraries, and public schools are closed. If you're closing your public school for Cesar Chavez and you're not closing it for like Good Friday, you need to look in the mirror. Some state, let's see, what else do we have here on this? Because this is all news to me. In addition, there are celebrations in his honor in Arizona, Michigan, Nebraska, and New Mexico, and has been observed in California since 1995. But this became a thing back in 2008. As Senator, Barack Obama endorsed the idea of creating a national holiday in Chavez's honor. He said then Chavez left a legacy as an educator, environmentalist, and civil rights leader, and his cause lives on. As farm workers and laborers across America continue to struggle for fair treatment and fair wages, we find strength in what Cesar Chavez accomplished so many years ago. And we should honor him for what he's taught us about making America stronger, more just, and a more prosperous nation. Then Senator Obama said, John Anthony,
I went to Hobby Lobby to get decorations, but the clearance aisle was already gone on this stuff. So, you can always just join Future Farmers of America, founded in 1928, if you're interested in this kind of thing. They certainly had a strong presence in this market over the years, having their national convention here.
Oh, that would take away the commie angle of what he's doing.
Well, you get a cool blue jacket. Better than a yellow T-shirt.
And then, fast forward to March of 2014, then President Obama used his authority to proclaim each March 31st as Cesar Chavez Day. So yesterday we had three holidays that were banging up against each other. You had that pesky Easter Sunday thing, he is risen. Well, Jesus Christ, put that by the wayside. You had Transgender Day of Visibility. Woo! And then you had Cesar Chavez Day. So our Vice President, Kamala Harris, had 3 social media posts yesterday. Let me share each one of these with you. The first one came from Kamala Harris at 8:30 in the morning. And all it said was, on Easter Sunday, we are celebrating hope and faith in renewal. Wishing everyone a happy Easter. That's it. Just the words. No pictures, no graphics, just the words. Then, let's see, this was at 11:30 in the morning from Kamala Harris. A big old picture, blue and pink. The picture says trans rights are human rights. Biden-Harris logo at the bottom. On Transgender Day of Visibility, writes Kamala Harris, we celebrate transgender and non-binary Americans. Their courage is giving countless others strength, but no one should have to be brave just to be themselves. Gosh.
Every time I hear you, I feel a little bit dumber for what you say.
We see you. We stand with you, writes Kamala Harris. We won't stop fighting for you. Wow. Transgender Day of Visibility got a lot more attention and love than Easter Sunday did from Kamala Harris. And then this dropped at 4:04 in the afternoon from the Veep. A picture of her standing alongside Joe and Jill and her husband, Doug. And they're standing in front of a Biden-Harris logo. And she writes here, for Cesar Chavez, it was about fighting for fairness and the dignity for workers. On Cesar Chavez Day, we celebrate his legacy through his granddaughter, Julie Chavez Rodriguez. She's also in this picture, whom I have worked with for years. She represents all that our campaign stands for. The people. That's right. That's exactly what Kamala Harris just put up on social media yesterday afternoon. You have Kamala Harris with 3 social media posts yesterday, and she had more positive things to say about transgenders and Cesar Chavez than the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. When they tell you who they are, believe them. I don't know how else to put it. When they show you who they are, believe them. There is no need to do this fake dog and pony show where they will tell you they're something they're not. They are telling you who they are. Kamala Harris did it yesterday in 3 social media posts where she spent more time and graphics work and words on Transgender Day of Visibility, a made-up holiday as of 2009, and Cesar Chavez Day, another made-up day as of 2014, than they did anything to do with Easter Sunday. Believe them when they show you who they are.